Welcome everyone to this CELPIP Speaking Part 5 Comparing and Persuading Analysis. Now I'm just here in the Speaking Part 5 section of the CELPIP library, and before we get started, I do want to remind you that Speaking Part 5 has more focus on CLB 4 to 6. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you need to get CLB 4, 5, or 6, then you need to do better in this part, or you will have a chance to speak more and speak better in this part than in other parts, okay? That's because speaking part 5 has a more familiar situation or more common situations and easier questions to understand than part 1, part 6, or part 7, okay? So that's why you will have more opportunities to speak and you need to show that you can speak for this part, okay? Now, if you need to get CLB 7 or higher, this part will be easier for you and you can't really show your higher level English knowledge as much as in part 7, okay? And you should speak well for this part because it will be easier, okay? All right, so now also I want to remind you that we have this great Speaking Part 5 Tips and Strategies video, okay? That video will give you more details about how you can answer Part 5 better. Some tips that you can use, some strategies that you can use to answer the question, and some of the tips and strategies which I will use to answer this question, okay? And also, I will be speaking some of those tips and strategies in this example. But if you want to watch that video, it's a great video, and I will leave a link in the description box to that video. Okay? So then, let's look at today's volume sample. Company gift. So everyone, you see we have a CLB 5-6 sample and a CLB 7-9 sample. Okay, so you choose the level which is appropriate for you. Then we have in each section the video analysis which you're watching, and we have vocabulary building, both with vocabulary building. Vocabulary building is excellent to improve your vocabulary. We have some words with basic meanings, synonyms, and antonyms. And then this great exercise where you complete the sentence with one word from the list. Okay, great exercise to improve your vocabulary. And then we have grammar building. Grammar building, everyone. For part 5, we need to know our comparatives. How can we compare better? What do we do for adjectives? Okay. And a great practice exercise to improve our comparative language. Okay. So everyone, now some important tips and strategies for part 5. Firstly, everyone, in part 5, we are comparing and persuading. So we should try to use comparative language. Yes, comparative language, using more, less, greater, better. Okay? For example, part 5 is easier than part 7. Okay? Or you can say part 7 is more difficult than part 5. Okay? So it's very important to use comparative language when we are comparing the two options. Secondly, let's remember, everyone, to try to organize your answer. The more organized that you are, the better. Okay? Higher levels organize their answer more. Okay, we should try to avoid repetition, meaning do not repeat yourself. Let's try to follow a sequence or organize. And of course, try to speak for 1 minute. Okay? In our samples, we will be following a method or a pattern to answer our response. We are going to be introducing the question. It's very good to introduce the question. Okay, to be clear about the question. And then we're going to be using some of these connectors. Firstly, I'd say that my choice. Secondly, and last but not least, we're going to be using this kind of sequence to connect our ideas. Okay? Everyone, I do want to remind you that part 5 has 3 parts. First, you choose your option. For example, here's the question. You have 1 minute. You choose this option or this option. Whichever option. Okay. If you choose this option and then you go to the next part, that will be your choice, you see? And then the computer gives you another choice. Or you can choose the second option here, and that will be your choice right over here. And then the computer will give you the same option. Okay? So then, and you will have another minute to prepare. So the only thing that could be a good tip is for you to just choose the one which you understand more. Maybe you understand this information more, or maybe you understand this information more. It would be better to choose the one you know more. Okay? Let's get started. So then, everyone, let's remember that this is a CLB 7 to 9 example, okay? All right, here's our question. Part 5, comparing and persuading. Preparation time 1 minute, speaking time 1 minute. Okay. The staff would like to buy the boss a gift for his 25 years of working at the company. Okay, so they want to buy a gift for the boss, 25-year anniversary gift maybe. So they think a trip to Hawaii would be great. But you think a watch would be better. So the staff's choice, your choice. Okay. So persuade them to choose your idea. So we have to get them to choose the watch, not this trip to Hawaii, which 1 week in a beautiful tropical 7-star resort sounds great. Photo album of the trip and some spending money. Now, what about ours? Gold watch with a diamond at the center. Wow. The company name will be engraved. Sounds great. Lifetime warranty. Okay. So, everyone. Let's remember that for the 7 to 9 answer, we need to make sure that we answer the question clearly and directly. Okay? And we have to make sure that we don't talk about something too much. We have to compare everything. And we need to organize and use connection. We need to, higher levels, they can organize and use good structure to provide their answer. We need to have stronger ideas, okay? And it would be easy to tell what's a basic idea and what's a higher level idea based on the vocabulary you use, okay? And then, of course, stronger structure, stronger expression with grammar. Okay, using perfect conditionals, passive modalities. Modalities, very important for explaining our opinion. Modalities. And of course, we need to try to use stronger fluency, clarity, and intonation, which we will do. Okay. So then, let's start off by introducing the question, okay? If I had to persuade my staff to choose the watch over the trip to Hawaii for our boss's 25-year anniversary gift, I'd make some convincing points. Okay, very good. So right away from the beginning, we're using a very strong sentence form, an indirect form. If I had to persuade. Very strong form. But we could use direct form. Hello, staff. I want to persuade you to choose the watch over the trip to Hawaii. So we can use direct form. Okay? I'm just saying that this sentence structure form is a little bit stronger. Okay? Good sentence to start off with. And I am going to be using blue to illustrate my structure and sequence, which is very important. Okay, and red for my main grammar form. And everything else in black. Okay. So, we started off great. What's our first idea? Firstly, I'd say that even though the trip could be memorable, very good sentence as well. Even though, contrasting sentence. Higher levels can use those well. So even though the trip could be memorable, I think nothing could last as long as a gold watch with a diamond. Okay, so this is good, but nothing could last as long as a gold watch. So we're using a good contrasting sentence to say that the gold watch with a diamond could last forever. And then we're explaining. So whenever he'd wear the watch, he'd be reminded of his lifetime of work for the company. Right. Because when he's wearing that watch, he'd be reminded. Okay? So, very good idea. It would last longer and he'd be reminded. Okay. Very good idea. And now, very strong expression. Notice how we've used modals to explain our opinion in every sentence part. Could be, could last, he'd wear, he would wear, he'd be reminded. We're using modals because using modals is a higher level way of expressing opinions. And over here, we've used modal passive. He would be reminded. Who's going to remind him? We don't know. He'd be reminded. So that's why we're using modal passive. Okay? So strong expression of ideas. Okay, very good. Now let's get to the second idea. Secondly, I'd say that having the company name engraved on the watch would certainly provide much more sentimental value for his 25-year tenure than the photo album of the trip. Great idea. So much more sentimental value. Sentimental value, very good, strong idea. Okay, good comparative, much more sentimental value than the photo album. Very good. We're comparing to the photo album. The name will be engraved, much more sentimental value than a photo album. Very good idea. Very strong expression. Having the company name engraved on the watch. This would certainly provide strong expression of the subject. Okay. Again, also strong expression for his 25-year tenure. Tenure, period of working. Strong idea, okay? Again, using modals would certainly provide. And not just using modals would provide. We're using adverbs of effect would certainly provide. So again, higher levels can do this. They can express with modals would provide, but they can also use adverbs of effect to explain stronger, would certainly provide. So very strong sentence over here. And then we explained a little bit more. Furthermore, engraving his name would definitely demonstrate the company's appreciation for his years of servitude. Right? So company appreciation, strong idea. Would definitely demonstrate, strong expression. Okay? Like I said before, using modals, using adverbs, strong expression, engraving his name, strong subject. So very good second idea. Okay, very strong second idea. Okay, years of servitude, tenure, strong expression. Let's get to the third one. Lastly, I think the icing on the cake would be the fact that he'd have a lifetime warranty. Very strong expression. The icing on the cake, the best or the strongest part, would be the fact that, good connector. He'd have a lifetime warranty because he could guarantee that his priceless piece of jewelry will be forever maintained in perfect condition. Strong expression. Could guarantee. Will be forever maintained. Future passive. Future passive. And adverb. Forever maintained. Will be forever maintained. We could say will be maintained, but using adverbs of effect will be forever maintained. Strong expression will be definitely maintained, will be certainly maintained. So again, stronger expression using adverbs between the auxiliary and the main verb. Higher levels, we know how to do this, okay? And again, very strong expression, the icing on the cake, the fact that. So everyone, this answer is definitely an example of 9 plus. Is definitely an example, you see? Okay, the quality. The quality is an example of 9 plus. First and foremost, I want to say that it's got to do with the organization. We've organized and we gave 3 ideas and we've organized very well. Sequenced and connected very well. And we've given 3 ideas and we've explained them very strongly. That's the second one, okay? And then we've used strong language. Modals we used from beginning to end. Every sentence has modals because that is something that higher levels, 9 or higher, they can do that. They can use modals to explain their opinions. They can use adverbs between the auxiliary and modals and the main verb. They can use future passive. They can use modal passive. And then, of course, the vocabulary. Very strong words or higher level words. Memorable. Could last as long as. Much more sentimental. 25-year tenure. Company appreciation. The fact that lifetime warranty, priceless piece of jewelry, priceless piece of jewelry. We've used higher level language throughout, and that is important for 9 plus. CLB 7-8, we don't use this higher level language or expression, okay? CLB 7-8 could say the trip is memorable, okay? Nothing can last as long as, you see? We don't usually use he'd wear. So whenever he wears the watch, he will be reminded, or he will remind himself. Lower level expression. 7 to 8s, we don't have this expression, and we don't explain the ideas with this kind of grammar or language. You give good explanations, just the language is lower, okay? I want to be clear about that. It's still 7 to 8s. We can explain well, and we can explain 3 ideas or even 2 ideas. We just don't explain them at this quality, okay? So that's the difference between 7, 8, and 9 or higher, the quality of the answer. But also, it's not only about the quality of the answer, it's about speaking this answer in 1 minute with good flow and intonation. What is good flow and intonation? Clearly, slowly, continuously for flow. Intonation. We are pronouncing clearly, and also we're just stressing different parts of the sentences according to how they should be stressed in native speaking. Okay? So, higher levels or 7, 8, and 9, your answer or your score can be determined by how you speak it in 1 minute. Okay? So, I will speak this answer now in 1 minute. So you can see the 7 to 9 flow and intonation, okay? Here we go. If I had to persuade my staff to choose the watch over the trip to Hawaii for our boss's 25-year anniversary gift, I'd make some convincing points. Firstly, I'd say that even though the trip could be memorable, I think nothing could last as long as a gold watch with a diamond. So whenever he'd wear the watch, he'd be reminded of his lifetime of work for the company. Secondly, I'd say that having the company name engraved on the watch would certainly provide much more sentimental value for his 25-year tenure than the photo album of the trip. Furthermore, engraving his name would definitely demonstrate the company's appreciation of his years of servitude. Lastly, I think the icing on the cake would be the fact that he'd have a lifetime warranty because he could guarantee that his priceless piece of jewelry will be forever maintained in perfect condition. So, everyone, you see, I spoke that there exactly in 1 minute. I was going a little bit slower in some parts to stress those parts, okay? But in general, it was spoken at a good flow and intonation example for this level, okay? Now, as I was saying, 7 to 8s, we're not exactly at this part, and level 9s, we definitely need to improve this. So what can we do? The first thing we can do is read and understand. We need to read and understand how the answer was connected, structured, organized. And second, we need to read and understand how ideas were expressed. And the ideas, what language did we use? We need to read and understand how we used modals throughout, how we used future passive, modal passive, how we compared and contrasted using even though, how we used adverbs to express our ideas stronger. So reading and understanding is very important. Then we need to read and speak this answer in 1 minute to make sure that we practice our flow and intonation, okay? The more that we practice speaking this answer in 1 minute, the more that we will improve our flow and intonation, okay? And lastly, everyone, can you speak that answer in 1 minute without reading it? Can you do that? Level 9s or higher after reading the answer for a few times, you should keep those ideas in your knowledge. Okay, you should have the knowledge, keep that knowledge, and you should be able to speak it in 1 minute without reading. Maybe not exactly, but most of it from your knowledge, not from memory. It's a big difference between knowledge and memory. Okay? Knowledge means you remember that that is a good way to express those ideas. Okay? Memory is you're trying to remember what you said. But, okay, we need to read it and try to keep the knowledge. So then we can speak it in 1 minute without reading. And the more that you read it, the more that you will keep that knowledge. For that, everyone, I've left a link in the description box to this sample answer. Okay, so you can read and speak in 1 minute, and then try to speak it in 1 minute on your own. Okay. And also, everyone, let's not forget about CELPIP Library. CELPIP Library has over 50 examples of speaking part 5. And these examples will really help you boost your level, increase your level. Okay, everyone? So, with CELPIP code 79, again, that is discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription for only $10.99. That's a great deal, everyone, and I strongly recommend it. So don't forget, practice makes perfect.